migrants from the United States has been an ongoing reality spanning multiple presidencies. Under the Biden administration alone, 1,100 Indians were deported in the last fiscal year. Since October 2020, nearly 170,000 Indian migrants have been detained by U.S. Customs and Border Protection while attempting to cross the borders illegally, either from Canada or from Mexico. They're all subject to deportation. But to truly understand what's fueling this wave of irregular migration, we have to look beyond the headlines. Some argue that these rising asylum claims reflect shrinking freedoms at home, but I don't think that's really a good enough explanation. The reality is more complex. Migration, especially from Punjab and Gujarat, has been deeply ingrained in our history, and it's partially driven not just by need, but by aspiration. If you can afford to pay agents 50 lakhs or even a crore, as in one or two cases that have been reported, to smuggle you into America or Canada, then obviously it's not economic need. You could live very well for a very long time on that kind of money in India. With remittances hitting 120 billion in 2023, 120 billion US dollars, migration fuels a cycle where families often seek to replicate the success of their relatives abroad. This has birthed a thriving network of agents, promising Western shores often through questionable means. So that we can't afford to treat this as somebody else's problem. With nearly 1 in 4 Indian immigrants in the US undocumented, and an estimated total of 725,000, 7.25 lakh, as of 2 years ago, undocumented Indians in the US, the message is clear that it's not an issue we can afford to overlook in our own national credibility. Recent events reveal stark contrasts with how the US has been handling deportations. When the US sought to deport Colombian nationals on a military aircraft, Colombia refused and said, we'll send you our own plane to repatriate our citizens. Mexico, too, reasserted its sovereignty with President Claudia Sheinbaum, emphasizing that while the US can enforce its laws, other nations have the right to determine how their citizens are returned. India must uphold the same principle. Those facing deportation are not criminals in this country, but they're individuals caught in immigration technicalities, no visa or expired visa, undocumented entries, bureaucratic missteps, and frankly, simply being cheated by unscrupulous agents. And yet they're often treated as felons, subject to shackles, handcuffs, military transport. And that is an insult to their human struggles. Deportation is an administrative process. It need not be a punitive spectacle. Humiliating individuals to deter others serves no just purpose. It merely erodes their dignity and distorts justice. And we must ask, does a democracy treat another democracy's citizens in this way? Does border enforcement justify eroding human dignity? And if deportation is necessary, must it undermine the very values that the deporting nation is supposed to uphold? Diplomacy is not just policy, it's a reflection of national character. While India does not and should not endorse illegal immigration, we should not be silent spectators to the treatment of our citizens abroad. Just as we expect foreigners in India to respect our laws, we demand that Indians too should respect the laws of other countries. But compliance or failure to comply should not result in dehumanization. A nation's stature is not just economic clout or diplomatic reach, but the respect its passport commands. True global engagement isn't just about alliances and trade deals. It's about setting an unwavering standard. Wherever an Indian stands, the nation should stand with him or her. Because when all is said and done, a nation's stature is not measured by the walls it builds to keep people out or in, but by the bridges it maintains with those it sends away. And so in the so-called world of walls, to use the title ABP gave me, where borders are fortified, visas are weaponized, and entire lives are upended by the stroke of an immigration officer's pen, the real question is not why Indians are being sent back, but why they had to leave in the first place. Why has the pursuit of dignity, stability, and economic security led millions of our countrymen and women to distant shores only to be met with closed doors? Why is India one of the world's fastest growing economies, as we've just heard, a rising geopolitical force, and a nation with unparalleled human capital? Why are we still unable to provide enough opportunities to our own people? These are uncomfortable questions, but ones we can no longer ignore. For decades, the great Indian migration has been driven by the search for a better life, some for education, others for jobs, but many out of necessity. As deportations rise, the conversation must go beyond their removal to the conditions that push them away. Indians and India must not be a place migrants are forced to return to unwillingly, but one they want never to leave or to come back happily when they do. Those coming back are potentially skilled, ambitious individuals whose experiences and energies can drive India's growth. To break the cycle we've seen so far, we need real structural change, not just rhetoric. Opportunities must be accessible to all, not concentrated amongst the privileged. Cities must fuel inclusive growth. Rural economies must become hubs of innovation. And investment in infrastructure, education, and entrepreneurship must be national imperatives. More than just jobs, India must offer careers that inspire people to stay, build, and invest in their future here. This is a collective responsibility for all Indians. Every institution, policymaker, corporate leader, entrepreneur, and citizen who envisages a stronger India must play a part. Political parties must think beyond the next election and commit to long-term nation building. Policy must move from quick fixes to systemic reform. The economy must not only generate jobs, but ensure they're worth aspiring to. A young graduate in Delhi or Patna should feel as confident about their future in India as they would in Toronto or London. As the world builds walls, India must build bridges. Bridges to opportunity, to prosperity, and to a future where migration is a choice, not a necessity. A great nation is not measured by those who leave, but by those who stay because they believe. They believe in what lies ahead. India must not just be the world's largest exporter of talent, but one day a magnet for talent, a place where ambition flourishes without an outbound ticket, where success is celebrated here at home, where prosperity is not an aspiration or a dream, but a reality shaped on our own soil. Let us make India once again a land of hope, not just because the world is rejecting our people, but because if done right, they will have no need to look elsewhere. Thank you. I'm going to leave it there for now. Jai Hind, and I look forward to the discussion to follow.